Cyberpunk 2077 has broken a record, as far as I can tell. This is a list of the most liked YouTube videos on the planet, sorted by like percentage. The like ratio on the Cyberpunk trailer is what I calculated to be 98.6%, and as you guys can see here, Cyberpunk is going to be at the top of this list whenever they get their lazy butts around to updating it. Maybe there's a different source out there that proves otherwise, but as far as I can tell, Cyberpunk 2077 is the most liked video in proportion that has a substantial amount of views, in excess of 1 million. Huge record-breaking day for Cyberpunk. Well deserved. The trailer's fantastic, and today we're going to talk about that trailer and break down why I believe it's a record-breaking trailer. So I hope you guys enjoy. Roll the clip. The first ever gameplay trailer for Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the most well-received trailers in YouTube history. The last time I checked, 98.6% of people upvoted the trailer, and that has to be some sort of record. Never in my day have I seen such mass love for a single video game. A video game that no one actually knows anything about, but nearly everyone seems to be excited for. But it is easy to see why Cyberpunk is loved already by gamers when you look back into time at our industry. Video game reveals have always been a very touchy subject. A lot of the times the initial presentation displaying a game is a simple non-gameplay trailer encapsulating a whopping 2 to 3 minutes. Generally speaking, these trailers contain no narration or commentary by the development team, little to no gameplay, and are made solely to generate hype. Creating hype is all fine and dandy, but when it's done with the intent to mislead consumers with extravagant CGI or unrealistic depictions of the game, which happens a lot, gamers often get left out in the cold. What I appreciated right away about the gameplay trailer was this warning.
Before we start, a small but important disclaimer. The gameplay you're about to see is from a work-in-progress version of the game. Everything you see is potentially subject to change.
You'd be surprised to know that most gameplay reveals, let alone any presentations featuring a game, often ignore putting in these simple statements altogether. It curbed my expectations knowing that the game might not look this great when it comes out, or the throngs of NPCs might not be as bustling as featured, or that things might change, including how the combat, abilities, and dialogue systems operate. I think that failing to warn gamers that footage may not be representative of the final product is a grave omission, especially when much of this industry's revenue is generated from the pre-order culture. I'm glad they included it, both to protect themselves on the chance that the game needs to be changed and to manage consumer expectations. While consumers and developers share the responsibility of a game's transaction, it doesn't mean that developers can't take the initiative to take on more of the burden, and this is one of those examples. Now let's talk about the trailer itself. I mean, when is the last time you've seen a 48-minute gameplay reveal for any game, ever? It's pretty much unheard of in the video game industry to not only present gameplay in the game's initial reveal event, but to show so much. In this nearly 1 hour video, we get to see it all, how the combat works, both as a new player and what the late game might look like in terms of what abilities are in store, how the story works, the dialogue, the choices the character can make, what a complete quest looks like from start to finish, how a player may navigate the city, how quests pan out diplomatically or otherwise, how the world looks, its people, its energy, and so much more. A trailer like this exudes confidence and people latch onto a game that speaks for itself. That was my biggest takeaway from this trailer. Cyberpunk 2077 seems to know exactly what it is and is incredibly self-aware. It's a bold and fearless presentation of a game that wants to show you what it has on offer because it knows that it's pretty goddamn good. It also shows that CDPR has nothing to hide. I noticed a few bugs in the trailer, some clipping issues with NPCs, pop-in, and problems with overlapping audio. They didn't cut them out because it's part of the development process. There was really no editing in the entire video, it all moved so organically. Granted, it wasn't completely non-scripted, but for the most part I think this was as close to representing live gameplay as they could have without straight up being live. So showing a game in this raw state just impressed the hell out of me. With that said though, the only way I think this trailer could have been even better is if it was completely non-scripted, because there was sections of the gameplay that did seem like they were being kind of hand-carved out, and that does take away a little bit from what the game's representative state is probably going to be. But right now I think that's asking a little bit too much, so we're going to let it slide. Number 3 that was noteworthy was obviously the game itself. Cyberpunk looks amazing, and while we should be critical of it when it comes out, I think there's nothing wrong with praising what looks good now too. All too often in this industry, it's almost frowned upon to appreciate something, as there was always someone arguing against you. To that, I'll say this: get excited for the right reasons. Getting hyped for a game is healthy when you can see what a game will actually be, not daydreaming of what a game could be by the way of a 2 minutes E3 presentation. This gameplay trailer has a lot to look at, and is nicely narrated so that we don't miss out on any details.
These guys are levels higher than we are. Let's try to approach them carefully.
Give us a lift out of here? No problem.
Cutting connection. T-bug out.
All clear.
That was Trauma
Let's see when
Team,
we blow.
a kind of high-end premium medical
Don't
insurance.
have much time from what Bug said.
We've delivered the target, and T-Bug has notified us that the scavengers have called in reinforcements. Let's get out of here before they arrive.
Just like the game, the narration provided context to how the world was built and what was going on, so just about anyone watching could understand what V and her partner were up to. I definitely appreciate that extra effort. What also struck out for me was that the world felt so mature and immersive. There was quite a bit of nudity on display here, but it seemed to be fitting with the subject material, unlike a game like Metro, where it just throws boobs at you for no reason. The profanity and mature subject material of this trailer made it feel like a game for gamers who want something substantial and have it tied to the actual experience, and not just thrown on to appease horny gamers across the world. And let's talk about that immersion for a second. Did anyone else feel incredibly drawn into this world and love the fact that Cyberpunk is in first person? It felt pretty visceral and like I could reach out and just touch the game, and that's not something I say very often. Just walking around showed so many signs of detail, from the slums to the city to the HUD itself and the car and the menus. It all felt very consistent with the Cyberpunk theme. And at no point did I feel like the game had any issues of disconnect from its theme and art style. Everything screamed Cyberpunk in a really nice way. To be frank, this is one of the most underrated and overlooked elements of the RPG today in 2018. A fundamentally sound and consistent art style. All too often it seems like games are made in silos and shipped out the door with any heed to consistency, as if they were developed in isolation and then stitched together at the last minute. I've seen many games like this out, and I felt like I could live in the world of Cyberpunk 2077, so that's a really good sign. The last thing I really liked about the trailer was that it seems like the game is pursuing a lot of innovation. From the Matrix and Max Payne style slow motion to the wall running, I can tell that CDPR really wanted to try and embrace change. It's a risk that buries a lot of games out there, but if it's done right, it's what makes the best games out there stand apart from the rest. But of course, the trailer is not perfect, and for me, the gameplay looks a little bit floaty. I was really impressed with the movement system and how fluid the animations were and how it all synced up really nicely, but when it comes to the gameplay itself, I was expecting a little bit more impact and weight to the gun mechanics. I think it's really important in a first-person shooting game that you really have a nice sense of impact and weight and depth to the guns. A lot of games do it right, a lot of games don't get it right, and I feel like it definitely needs some work in Cyberpunk 2077.
Jesus Christ! My legs!
I would like to see a little bit more oomph from the guns. That's just me personally though. But on the whole, content-wise, 48 minutes of high-quality Cyberpunk footage. I mean, what else do you want right now? Looks great, and I'm really excited to continue covering this game in the future because, well, CDPR is one of my favorite developers out there, and they created one of my favorite RPGs of all time, The Witcher 3. I think Cyberpunk 2077, above any other game out there right now, or coming out, is the hope for the industry. Because this industry has been covered in so many bad games in the past couple years, so many slimy, for-money systems impregnating some of our games from our friends like EA and Ubisoft. Although Ubisoft has been getting a little bit better lately. But just on the whole, the single-player dream is something that really encapsulates Cyberpunk 2077, and people really want this game to succeed, and I do too. Not enough high-quality single-player games come out consistently, especially from companies that you know the game is going to be at least a certain level of quality, and this is definitely one of those games. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.
Need to get to know this city, Jack. Not just gun in hand. I'm on a crusade.
Amen, I know.
Gotta crawl